They cut me out of the family photo and gave my seat at dinner to my sister's boyfriend. Colin Mercer, 46, VP of Strategy, watched from my office as he pitched my proposal with my words. The leather-bound notebook he held? I gave it to Lana years ago. Ever had someone try to replace you? With someone who works for you? Tell me, how would you have handled it? I didn't know I'd been replaced until I saw the photo. It was Thursday evening, and the rain in Raleigh hadn't stopped for hours. The steady patter against the window had become the kind of white noise that made a man disappear into his own thoughts. I had reheated leftovers, something vaguely Italian from the freezer, and set my phone propped against a sugar jar while I scrolled through messages I hadn't opened all day. I tapped open Lana's Instagram story out of habit, not expectation. We hadn't spoken in over 2 months, and our last exchange was a forwarded meme from her, a photo of a burnt turkey with the caption, "Mom's 2009 Thanksgiving, never forget." I didn't reply. It felt like a cheap invitation back into a room where I was always half unwelcome. But this story, this one stung. She had hosted a dinner last weekend. A long table, candles flickering down the center. Our parents were there. Harvey in his navy cashmere, Loretta clutching her wine glass like it was the only thing giving her purpose. A few of Lana's friends, all perfectly color-coordinated, like she planned the evening around a palette. And then him. A man with the kind of smile people assume means success. Not just confidence. Comfort. The kind of comfort that says, I know they've chosen me. He was in my chair. The one at the corner, where I'd sat during countless Thanksgivings and Mother's Days, where Dad had once raised a toast to Colin's promotion, finally out-earning me, before they all laughed. I paused the story and zoomed in. His arm rested across the back of Lana's chair, her hand cupped over his in a way that felt rehearsed. I'd never seen this man before, but somehow he already belonged. And me? I wasn't even tagged. My stomach curled, and not because of the half-warm pasta. I clicked to the next photo, a boomerang of Mom laughing while the mystery man poured red wine into her glass. The caption, "Noah's basically family now." I dropped the fork into the sink without finishing dinner. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't show up in silence. It lives in substitution. It's in realizing not only that no one noticed you were gone, but that your absence made room for someone else. The birthday card for Mom was still on my counter. I'd picked it up the week before, one of those elegant ones with real pressed flowers on the front, and an envelope that smelled faintly of lavender. I'd even wrapped a silk scarf, deep blue, her favorite, for when she traveled to Charleston next month. I pulled the drawer open to slide the envelope in. And then I hesitated. What was I doing? Sending gifts to a woman who hadn't called since Easter? Mailing affection to someone who'd smiled wider at a stranger pouring Merlot than she had at me in the last 2 years? Still, I sealed the envelope. Maybe out of duty. Maybe out of muscle memory. Maybe because some part of me believed in keeping the bridges intact, even if I was the only one crossing them. The buzz from my phone startled me. It wasn't Lana, wasn't Mom, not even one of the cousins. It was a voice memo from Aunt Marla. "Hey Colin, just wanted to say, don't take it personally, all right? Noah's just got this energy about him, you know? Real charismatic. I think your mom and dad are just trying to keep the vibe positive. Keep the vibe positive." I listened again, letting those 4 words rattle. My absence was considered a disruption, a mood, something that needed to be managed. I turned back to my laptop, blinking through the growing heaviness in my eyes. There, sitting in my inbox, was a subject line I hadn't expected. Mentor assignment, new intern, Noah Temple. I read it once, then twice. Noah Temple. The name punched through the digital glow like a revelation wrapped in irony. The same man from the dinner table. The same positive energy now showing up on the roster of my team at Stratton Solutions, a tech consulting firm where I'd spent nearly 11 years mentoring junior analysts and interns. I opened his attached profile. Finance undergrad, Chapel Hill. Strategic marketing internship at some boutique firm in Austin. A few leadership awards, LinkedIn ready. His headshot smiled back at me. Still in the seat that used to be mine. I leaned back and rubbed my temple. Somewhere between amusement and nausea. It would have been funny if it weren't so on-brand. That's the thing about families like mine. They're so focused on the packaging that they forget who used to carry the boxes. If someone new fits the image better, congratulations. You're promoted. You don't get a notice. You just see it in a photo. I glanced back at my phone. One unread message. Not a text, not even a call. Just a notification from our old family group chat. I opened it. But I wasn't in it anymore. It wasn't a chat I'd muted or ignored. It was gone. I'd been removed. No more Mercer family circle at the top of my iMessages. Just a void where 7 years of birthday plans, grocery lists, and half-hearted updates used to live. You don't always hear the door close. Sometimes it's the silence after that tells you it's locked. Noah Temple walked into my office with the kind of handshake they teach in undergrad seminars. Firm, calculated, a smile designed to disarm. "Hi, I'm Noah," he said, reaching out confidently. "Really looking forward to learning from you, sir." Sir. It had been a while since anyone used that word with me. Most of the junior analysts around here defaulted to Colin by week 2. But Noah, he was playing it by the book. Every inch of him was tailored to impress. From the tan blazer that said "I read GQ" in airport lounges, to the too confident email signature I'd seen just minutes before he stepped through my door. Noah T. Temple, Future Strategic Executive, Stratton Intern 2023. He had no idea who I was. I gave a small nod and gestured toward the guest chair across from my desk. "Have a seat?" He did, immediately launching into his practiced monologue. How grateful he was for the opportunity, how he'd read Stratton's Q1 case studies, how excited he was to integrate real-world strategy with a customer-forward ethos. Words, words, words. I watched him talk. This stranger with familiar eyes, the same jawline I'd seen on Lana's feed during their ski trip in February. The same laugh that once echoed through our dining room on Mother's Day, now here, echoing off the office drywall. He kept talking. "And I'm actually dating someone who's super ambitious too," he added, adjusting his cuff. "She gets it, you know? She pushes me to grow. Accountability partners or whatever." I didn't flinch, but the irony was beginning to ferment. I remembered the email. December. The subject line had read, "Quick favor? Resume polish?" Lana's tone had been unusually cordial. "Can you just take a look at this? Noah's applying for a few internships. You know how corporate language trips people up. Just a light edit." Back then, I had opened it half-heartedly, scrolling through a well-structured but clumsy list of bullet points. Led group project in junior seminar. Volunteered for hurricane relief. Developed passion for strategic partnerships. I'd fixed the formatting, added a few results-oriented phrases. Standard stuff. Didn't even charge him a coffee for it. And now here he was, sitting in my office, international, assigned to my team. HR had made the pairing earlier that morning without ceremony. I arrived 10 minutes late to the intern huddle. Something about traffic. Something about the rain. Truthfully, I had stood in the parking lot for 5 minutes just breathing. When I walked in, Noah was already mid-sentence, introducing himself to the group. "I've always admired this company," he said, "especially the way they say things like, 'Don't build a wall, build a room with doors.' That really stuck with me." I froze. Lana had written that. On her birthday post in January. A caption under a photo of the two of them, arms wrapped in ski jackets. "Don't build a wall, build a room with doors. He brings that kind of thinking into my life." He quoted her like scripture, and no one noticed but me. "Colin," Joanna from HR said, tapping her clipboard, "this is your new mentee for the cycle, Noah Temple." I nodded once. Didn't shake his hand then. Saved it for later. Now, in my office, Noah's voice faded just long enough for me to notice the silence in the room. He was looking at me, waiting for something. "Why Stratton?" I asked, folding my hands. He leaned forward. "I want to build things that matter," he said. "Not just decks and pitches. I want to help companies connect with people, purpose over process. Polished. Naive, but polished." I wrote nothing down. Instead, I said, "Well, let's see how you do with what's already here." He smiled like I'd just handed him a treasure map. By noon, he had sent me a follow-up email titled, "Noah Temple, Internship Goals plus 5-Year Vision." I read it in the break room over bitter coffee. In 5 years, I see myself leading strategic conversations with Fortune 500 clients, using data to tell better stories, and modeling inclusive leadership that uplifts every voice. He signed off with a quote, "People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it." Another recycled line. TED Talk, 2012. There was no mention of Lana in the email. No clue that the man reading it had helped him land the internship. No awareness that the person he was trying to impress had seen him wrapped in birthday balloons on a backyard patio just last month. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the email to myself with the subject line, "Silence is curriculum." Back home that evening, I sat on the sofa with a takeout sandwich and an old baseball game playing in the background. The hum of familiarity. My phone buzzed again. This time, Lana, a text. "Noah's doing so great. He thinks highly of his supervisor. You'd like him." I read it 3 times. She didn't know. She had no idea that the supervisor Noah was praising was me, that I had watched her boyfriend take his seat at the dinner table, watched him step into a mentorship she indirectly asked me to polish, and now watched him trying to impress a man he didn't realize had already seen him at his most curated. I didn't reply. Some moments are too delicate for correction. I just closed my eyes and let the silence do what it does best. Collect what no one dares say aloud. I was pouring pancake batter when the group photo showed up. Not on my phone, not directly. It floated in through someone else's story. A cousin in Charlotte, maybe. One of those half-second scrolls you almost miss. Until you don't. There they all were. My family. My parents. Lana. And Noah, right in the center. Matching red t-shirts that said Mercer Family Reunion, Outer Banks 2023. Someone had added a filter with floating sparkles, and the caption, "Grateful beyond words." I blinked, then blinked again, not because I wasn't invited. That stopped being surprising a while ago, but because this was the first time they'd printed it, worn it, photographed it, a family reunion. Without me. I watched the photo disappear as the story expired. I didn't bother checking who else had seen it. I already knew the answer. The morning sunlight caught the maple syrup bottle on my kitchen counter, refracting little gold streaks across the backsplash. I flipped the pancake, let it brown, and plated it with a deliberate kind of care. A moment later, I heard the soft chime of a new email. Subject line: Quick update, Monday presentation. From Noah Temple to Colin Mercer. Hi Mercer, hope you had a good weekend. Just wanted to loop you in on my updated pitch deck for Monday's leadership round. Let me know if you have notes. N. I read it while chewing. Mercer. It shouldn't have bothered me. Most interns defaulted to last names until told otherwise. But something about the way he wrote it, clean, casual, unaware, landed like static in my ears. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the attachment. The deck was adequate, a bit wordy. A few misplaced buzzwords: synergy, mindshare, next-gen scalability. But structurally, it was sound. It bore faint traces of a format I'd developed years ago for Stratton's West Coast team, one I'd once shared with Lana on a whim when she wanted to impress a marketing exec at a non-profit gala. I closed the file. The pancake was cold now, still good, but not worth reheating. I poured coffee, opened the window, and let the Saturday air fill the room. That's when I found it. The voice memo, tucked in a forgotten folder labeled Family Inbox Sync. I'd created it sometime in 2021 to store Lana's audio rants about her projects. She preferred voice notes to typing, always had. This one was 47 seconds long. Her voice, warm, breathless, said, "Cole, seriously, thank you again for helping Noah with the job stuff. He won't say it, but you explaining that STAR method thing? That was huge. He got the call back today. Honestly, couldn't have done it without you." I paused it there. Saved it to my desktop. Labeled it, Evidence I'll Never Use. It was sometime mid-morning when I opened Instagram again, against my better judgment. There, under a photo of Noah holding a branded company mug, Lana had posted, "So proud of this man. Earned his internship on his own merit, heart, hustle, and brains." I scrolled past the likes. Mom, Dad, Aunt Clara, even Dad's college roommate from Michigan. Then I saw the comment. "We always said we wanted a son." The universe sent us one. At Loretta Mercer. My mother. I didn't screenshot it, I didn't forward it. I just stared for a moment, then turned off my phone and let it slide face down on the couch cushion. There's a moment in every long drift away where you stop hoping for a rope to be thrown. You just take note of how far the shore looks now and start counting the strokes back to yourself. That afternoon, I went for a walk. Same path as always. Down Harrington Street, past the stone church with the wild ivy, across the bridge that creaked when the wind hit just right. I didn't take headphones. I wanted the silence. On the way back, my phone buzzed again. Another email. Subject, Monday Leadership Forum, Final Deck Submission. From Noah Temple. To Senior Strategy Team, CC, Colin Mercer. Attached. Temple Mercer Stratton Q2 Pitch, final.pptx. My eyes paused at the file name, Temple_Mercer. I clicked. Slide 1. Stratton Q2 Positioning, presented by Noah Temple, mentored by Colin Mercer. I didn't feel pride or anger, not even surprise. I just sat down at my desk, opened the file, and began to scroll. The slides were decent, organized, visuals pulled from our brand toolkit, nothing original. Some phrasing mirrored what I'd written in last year's Global Outlook memo. A subtle lift, the kind most supervisors let pass when it's flattery cloaked in initiative. But here's what got me. Slide 8. Key frameworks developed in-house. It featured a 4-quadrant matrix I'd created 8 years ago during a coffee-fueled sprint before a West Coast merger presentation. I'd never published it, never shared it outside the firm. Noah had redrawn it, changed the colors, renamed the axes, called it Temple Grid. I stared at it for a long time, not with fury, but with observation. I clicked back to the voice memo, played it again. Lana's voice, all charm and breath and gratitude, filled the room. Then I pressed forward and sent it to myself again. Subject: History Revised. Label: Baseline. That evening, a company-wide calendar invite landed. Monday, Executive Leadership Forum, Intern Showcase. Presenter: Noah Temple. Moderator: Colin Mercer. I sat back. The reunion shirts, the public praise, the caption that erased me in 6 words. They weren't going to apologize. They weren't going to remember. So I'd stop waiting. Instead, I'd start documenting the forgetting. Noah Temple had dressed for triumph. Crisp slate suit, no tie, open collar. The kind of look designed to say I'm confident but relatable. He even brought a reusable water bottle with a slogan printed across it: Think Forward. I recognized the font. It was from our 2019 campaign. A quiet part of me wondered if he'd lifted that too. The boardroom at Bramble and Ash was quiet. Not tense, just still. The kind of stillness that comes when people with money and power decide they won't waste either on unnecessary chatter. Noah stood at the far end of the oval table. A screen behind him projected the title slide: Temple Vision, Next Gen Client Optimization Framework, presented by Noah Temple, Summer Strategy Fellow. I sat mid-table. Natalie from HR was to my right, watching everything. Our CEO, Richard Elm, was near the head, tapping a capped pen lightly against his notepad. Noah cleared his throat. Thank you all for being here. What I'm about to present is a vision I've developed over the past few weeks, after observing our internal dynamics and cross-functional workflows. He had rehearsed. His voice had that performative cadence, like a podcast host trying to sound unscripted. And then it began. Slide after slide. Charts, quadrants, terminology I hadn't seen in years, but which I knew intimately. It was mine. From a 2021 internal strategy memo I'd written during a week when 3 departments were about to be cut. I'd stayed late in the office, missed my godson's birthday, and eaten pretzels for dinner. I remembered the file name: Stratton Bridge Strategy Final.x. He had changed the color scheme, renamed the segments, and replaced the case studies with newer ones. But the structure, the sequencing, even the metaphor, lighthouse clients in turbulent seas, was word for word. I didn't flinch. Instead, I picked up the leather folder I'd placed beside my coffee. At slide 11, Noah paused for emphasis. He gestured toward a framework titled The Temple Grid. Here's where we see the core of our approach: 4 client postures across 2 axes of adaptability and investment horizon. This is the key to unlocking scalable growth without oversaturating service pipelines. He looked around for reaction. Nothing. Even the pen tapping stopped. That's when Richard leaned back slightly in his chair. "Colin," he said, eyes narrowing just a fraction. "Isn't that your old matrix from a couple years ago? I remember something almost identical in your Q2 memo from the Stratton pivot." Noah froze. His smile held, but only just. He gave a little shrug, then said, "Well, I suppose. Maybe I was influenced by the culture around here. Absorbing ideas through osmosis." Someone chuckled. Not kindly. Noah tried to move on, but Natalie cleared her throat gently, an unmistakable signal to pause. I reached into my folder, pulled out 5 crisp copies, printed, dated, signed. I passed them around silently. Each had the original title, B&A Strategic Resilience Model, authored by Colin Mercer, April 2021. I said nothing. Let the paper do the talking. Then Richard turned to me again. "Your thoughts, Colin?" I looked at Noah, still standing, still holding the clicker, still sweating behind the recycled jargon. I turned back to the room. "I believe," I said evenly, "that mentorship includes accountability. and accountability starts with clarity. The silence wasn't stunned. It was surgical. Even Noah seemed to sense that something foundational had shifted. The presentation didn't continue. Richard thanked Noah and suggested we revisit some of the insights in a different format. That was executive code for "this didn't land." As the room began to empty, Natalie walked past me and offered a subtle nod. Not approval, just acknowledgement. I gathered my folder and stood. Noah didn't say a word. Back at my desk, I sat quietly for a while. Then my phone buzzed. Lana text. "Noah's upset." What happened in that room? I stared at the message, typed nothing. After a minute, I put the phone face down and reopened the folder. At the top of one page was a line I'd written long ago. "The most effective truths are the ones no one argues with, because they were never said aloud." And for the first time in months, I felt no need to explain anything. At 5:17 p.m., Lana texted, "We're at Bristol in time. Join if you're not swamped. We saved you a seat." Saved me a seat. The last time I was at that restaurant, I was footing the bill for my parents' anniversary. That night, I'd ordered a bottle of Barolo my father liked but never remembered the name of. It wasn't the wine he commented on. It was the fact I didn't wear a tie. Tonight I wore a navy blazer, no tie again, white shirt open at the collar. Not for them, just for the weather. I didn't respond to the message. I was already walking toward the corner of Elm and Pike, where Bristol's big glass windows faced the street. It was dusk. Rain from earlier had dried into patches on the sidewalk, and the city smelled like damp concrete and lavender soap from the salon on 6th. I slowed near the restaurant. Not enough to stop, just enough to look. There they were. Table for 5. White linen. Candlelight. Noah at the center, his back straight, his laugh mid-rise. Lana leaned in, smiling like she was proud of something. My parents sat across from him, mirroring the approval I used to search for in their faces. My seat, the one at the end, near the wall, wasn't empty. It never was. I passed by. A valet nodded at me. I nodded back and kept walking. 2 blocks down, I entered a smaller place. Quiet, wood-paneled, and warm like good conversation. Eleanor was already there. She stood when she saw me, elegant even in flat shoes, and opened her arms for a light embrace. "Colin Mercer," she said, like the name meant more than I thought it did. We ordered tea, sea bass, and shared roasted fennel like we always used to at executive lunches. Back when she ran the firm I'd interned at out of grad school. I told her everything. Not all at once, and not for pity. Just like a ledger. Events and values. Dates and silence. She didn't interrupt. When I got to the part about Noah using my words in a boardroom like they were his, she set down her glass and smiled gently. "You don't fix a crooked table by forcing your chair back in," she said. "You build your own. One that doesn't need the same legs." That line stayed with me. Not because it was clever. Because it was true. Eleanor leaned in, business returning to her posture. "I'm starting something small but sharp. Private equity backed, cross-sector advisory with teeth. I've got 2 board seats to fill. One is yours, if you want to shape something that actually lives by the culture you wrote down 3 years ago." I didn't hesitate. I said yes. It wasn't dramatic, no announcement, no crowd, just tea cooling between us and something in my chest I hadn't felt in a while. Place. We toasted with elderflower tonic. "To choosing where I sit," I said, raising my glass. She smiled. "And who sits with you?" she added. On my walk back home, I passed Bristol in time again. Their table was empty, plates cleared, napkins folded, laughter gone. My phone buzzed at 9:02 p.m. Lana again. "We need to talk. Mom cried last night." I read it 3 times, Then I archived the message, unread, but not unanswered. Not yet. The subject line read, "Urgent. Request from your family. Please read." I stared at the email for longer than I'd like to admit. It had arrived at 8:07 a.m., exactly 2 minutes after I stepped into my office. I'd just finished pouring coffee. Black, no sugar. It wasn't from Lana, or my mother, or even Noah. It was from my father. Sent from his long abandoned work email, still signed, "Regards, Harold Mercer, CPA, retired." He'd never emailed me before, never called me sir. But today, the message began. "Dear Mr. Mercer, not Colin, not son, not even Kiddo, the nickname he used to reserve for when I'd done something useful, like unclogging the sink or finishing his tax software setup. Just Mr. Mercer." The body of the message was surprisingly short. Noah had dropped the ball, lost a key. Sponsor in a project that somehow, finally, tied back to the firm I now sat on the board of. There was a request, not a demand, not a command, just a suggestion that perhaps someone in your position might know how to intervene. I closed the tab. Across the room, sunlight painted soft patterns onto the oak floor. The city buzzed beneath the windows, far removed from whatever silence had formed between my family and me. On my desk sat a small, neatly wrapped box. Silver ribbon, white paper, Lana's handwriting on the tag. "To Colin, just to talk." I didn't open it. The voicemail came in at 10:43 a.m., just before the all-staff lunch. Lana's voice, breathy and uncertain. "Please. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't mean to choose. I thought you'd always be there." The line crackled for a second. Then silence. Then, "You were always the steady one." I tapped delete without replaying it. The shredder took the gift box without complaint. At noon, my team surprised me with a cake, dark chocolate, gold lettering. "Congratulations, Chair of Innovation Strategy." They clapped. I smiled. Someone raised a glass of sparkling cider and said, "You're the kind of boss people don't see coming." I laughed quietly, not because it was true, but because I didn't need to be seen anymore. Later, after the cake and the photos and the cheerful mess, I returned to my office. I opened a draft reply to my father's email, typed one line. "Hope you are well?" Then I deleted it. No response is a response. On my desk was a sticky note, my handwriting. I didn't remember writing it, but I must have. It read, "Not everyone needs to know what you built." You do. I didn't need the seat at their table. I had mine. When they finally reached out, they didn't call me by my name. They used my title. And strangely, that told me more than words ever could. In families and in life, love isn't about the seat you're given. It's about knowing your worth, even when no one saves you a place. Sometimes, walking away with peace is the quietest kind of strength. If this story touched something in you, I'd be honored to hear your thoughts. Maybe you've lived through something similar. Or maybe you're still waiting for your seat at the table,